After his quest to retrieve the orb and the sceptre, the rightful ruler has returned. But all is not well in the City of Irsmuncast nigh Edge, for an army of foes, spawn of the rift, have risen up and assaulted the city. Not only that, but rumour has it they are marshalled by one ancient foe, an old enemy. Honoric, the leader of the Legion of the Sword of Doom, has brought death and destruction to this fair city, and it is up to the ruler to defend it. But he is no mere mortal politician. This is Avenger. He is ninja, and he follows the way of the tiger. I am Ninja. My parents are the heaven and the earth. My home is my body. My power is loyalty. My magic is training. My life and my death is breathing. My body is control. My eyes are the sun and the moon. My ears are sensitivity. My laws are self-protection. My strength is adaptability. My ambition is taking every opportunity with fullness. My friend is my mind. My enemy is carelessness. My protection is right action. My weapons are everything that exists. My strategy is one foot in front of the other. My trust is in quality. My way is the way of the tiger. Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more of The Way of the Tiger. I know it's taken me a little longer to prepare this episode, but hopefully it will be worth it. So, when we last left off, we were surveying the battlefield, preparing for our final confrontation with Honoric and the Legion of the Sword of Doom. And I'll just recap the final section from the end of the last episode, and then we'll take a look at the reason why I've taken some extra time to prepare this episode. Dawn breaks. Examine the map opposite. Currently, your army is encamped along the Green Ridge and Tall Hill. As the sun rises, you can see a stream of village refugees hurrying over the old bridge and down the road. The reason is obvious. Sprawled around the manor house is the army of Honoric, the leader of the Legion of the Sword of Doom, their lines stretching from Sorden, Freeman's Farm, to Squire's Hill, so all the way across there. Your scouts, Glavis's Rangers, are out at the stream, as are the scouts of the Legion. Soon they will be returning with news. You begin issuing orders to bring all your commanders together for a council on this portentous day. And this, dear viewers, is the reason why I've taken some extra time to prepare the battlefield. And when I say extra time, I'm saying, like, these cliffs are all little sections about that long, right? Placing everything took time and effort. Yeah. And of course, while I was placing scenery in the terrain deployment phase, everything is loose. So if I were to, like, go like that, current turn is locked. Okay, yeah, cool. That's great.
But when it was unlocked, edit, game details, lock turns, no, lock turn. So if I was to go like that, oh no, that's out of place. So, you know what? I'll just reload that, just to be on the safe side. No changes. So that's now back where it should be, and we're in deployment of the armies, and that should not be there. Also, I don't know why this is showing 10. Swordsman for the Legion. Okay, so we want 500 because I'm scaling it down because it 50 wide. No, God, no. Let's see. 200. We've gone 10. 10. Oh, that's not good. Okay, so 100. We've gone 20. So we go 40. 80, 100 wide then. Right. So then if I plonk these down here... Oh god, what's happened to their coloration? Oh, that's going to be annoying. Right. Let's go... 50? Yeah, 50 works. Okay, there we are. So, for example, his army is currently... Yeah, controlling the facing is really tricky, but essentially between here and there. And we are deployed down on these two hills. Now, I'm going to remove these because obviously those aren't going to be final positions. So, we got ourselves the manor, we got our forests with lots of individually placed trees and groups of trees with individual trees filling gaps around them. This road is a lot darker than the dirt track paths. The manor is facing this way because there's a big dark road coming out of that side which goes to a dead end, and it would look odd if I rotated it. We have the cliffs on the side of the valley. We have the old farm. We have... what's this? Sword and Freeman's farm. We've got the Hartwig Fells farm down here. The Swampy Marsh. And yes, I did resize the river pieces to make the stream. This is as good as I can get for the corral. This is a reasonably good approximation for the placement of the buildings in the village here. If I just go to here, open this up. So we got those ones. I should have a little bit off the side there. I haven't added a little bit on the back of this building. And that might have been a fence, but I went with a little adjoining building too. So I've gone with an approximation here. Alright, so let us study the map. I have looked ahead a few sections just to check. Apparently the Shield Maidens of Dharma wear grey, white and green. The followers of Beatan wear yellow from Avaneg. And since there is a unit of Avaneg in Honoric's army as well, I've coloured it orange instead of yellow. The Women of Horngroth get to be red because they're very angry and violent, and the Monks of the Scarlet Mantis get to be red as well. And the Feudal Levies get a sort of crappy flag compared to... I couldn't get a nice straight sword on the banner for the Legion of the Sword of Doom, so I had to go for Scimitar. There's very limited options for the heraldry. Of course, we got the Paladins, the White Wizard, the Wood Elves, who are similar in colour and tone to Glavis's Rangers, and the Peasants, yeah. And having looked ahead, it seems, just a couple of sections, it seems that we need a unit for Antocitus and his mercenaries, and we're not particularly told how many of them there are. So we've got the old farm over here, the little hillock. So lots of nice landmarks. Now, oh, and I'll close this again. There we go, give us more space. Right. So, initial thoughts on the battle. First off, this very much looks like a large-scale battle map, not a small battlefield. Sort of game you might play Warhammer on. This is more like you might play Napoleonics or Warmaster or something like that, right? So, or Epic, something on a very grand scale, where you have this big zoomed-out view of the battlefield. And those games are all about placing, positioning troops, moving, and less about the value of units and how good they are. Just more about putting bodies where you can. And generally there's two ways to do this. Obviously you can use a sledgehammer to crack a nut and just throw everything at one thing you really want to crush, or you can play more reactively and, sorry, I'm a dwarf player, right? I set up a good defensive line, I keep some stuff in reserve, and then put it where it needs to go and consolidate as the battle evolves, right? That doesn't mean I'm an entirely reactive player, but it does mean I pay attention to what my opponents are doing. In this case, I've also done the Shield Maidens separately for Gwyneth and Hivatala, and a combined unit in case they're combined on the map between the two commanders. If they're separate, I'll put them on separately. If they're lumped together, I'll lump them together. So, on first look, we have somewhat more open space here, but these roads just stand out a lot more and make the space look less open. But if we come back to this, it's, a lot of open space up here as well. We got a swamp. That's not going to be fun. We don't want to fight in the swamp. We have a narrow ford and a stream. Now, it's entirely possible to cross a stream without using a ford. The ford is just the shallowest part and the easiest place to cross. So if this was a river, we could reasonably safely say we don't expect enemies to be crossing over here. But they might cross over. The second thing is, apart from our wood elves and the 3 wyverns and the old one, it's all humans in both armies, right? The army of Honoric is comprised mainly of the Legion of the Sword of Doom, with additional supporters from Avaneg, Mort Avalon, Horngroff, and the Spires, actually, who should have been an ally of ours, potentially. And he has a small contingent of Monks of the Scarlet Mantis. However, with the exception of the Doom over levies, Honoric's troops are of a consistent quality. He only has the one weak unit. It's huge, right? It's absolutely massive. Uh, 5,000 swordsmen and 4,000 levies. And of his 16,200 strong force, only 4,000 are of an inferior value. We apparently have a force of 1,527, of which 10,000 are low-quality troops. So if we take away the low-quality troops, he has 12,200 to our 10,027. And I may have got this... Hang on, let's... 1, 18... Okay, 25, 33... 25, 38... 48... 50... 5,020... 10,000 and... Yeah, I fucked up there, didn't I? Yeah. So our 10,027 soldiers up against his 16,200. And... No, that can't be right. That's literally 10,000 right there. Okay. 1,800. 33, 3,800. 4,800. 5,020. No, it is 1,524. Okay, yeah. However, we don't know if we had to leave half the peasant militia behind in the city with the forces of the usurper's army to help keep things in check. If we did, that's great, because we are not risking the lives of our untrained peasants, but also it's seriously cutting down on our ability to do things. So we'll see what we get to field, and I need to make a unit for Antocitus. So let's do that. New unit. Mercenaries. And of course, being mercenaries, we know they'll be prone to... how can we put this? Being extremely dishonorable. We go for something... If we go for a golden border, because they are greedy and operated by money, can we go not quite brown? Could almost work. Okay, yeah, sure. And let's see. Is there anything like a coin? Let's see. No. No. Obviously, some of these will be... Okay, sure, that'll work. There we go. Unknown number, so we'll just leave it blank. There we go. Right. So, yeah, what was I saying? I do have some old memories of the battle, right? From playing the book about 30 years ago. I remember needing to defend the ford and it getting very violent here. I remember needing to send the soldiers of the Legion of Myriad Possibilities from Avaneg, the worshippers of Beartan, to fight at, I think, the old farm. And, of course, there's the wyverns. What else? I seem to remember the Legion crossbowmen being nasty. Honoric advancing the crossbowmen out in front of his infantry to shoot, and then they'll obviously get out of the way and let the infantry come running past or through and fight. This is open again. I'll close that. Right. View. Okay, fine. It's shut. Hopefully it'll stay shut. So what else? We are outnumbered. We are an army of specialists without specialists. Honoric's force is an army of, I don't want to say generalists, but they are an army with a consistent quality to them. Most of them are of, decent skill level, decent level of equipment. The cooperation and morale may be a bit less because they're, arrogant and egotistical and think they can do things on their own without each other's help, right? So they may not cooperate as fully as they might. They might not cooperate as fully as a less arrogant opponent. Honoric is arrogant, he's strong, but he is an experienced commander, so he won't make massive mistakes. But we can count on him to believe in the might of his army and his own personal ability to get things done, so he believes his minions will do what he tells them, and they might not follow his orders quite as effectively as he would like. I don't think they're going to be a massive disorganized rabble. You know, they're a well-trained force. We have the Shield Maidens, who are well-trained, moderately well-equipped, not as heavily equipped as the Legion. The Shield Maidens have better training and discipline. And I do mean the word discipline, not morale. I'm talking self-control here, right? They'll be less likely to go chasing after enemies who fake a retreat to bait them into a trap or something, right? They'll be more likely to stand their ground and do what they're told. And if Force Lady Gwyneth is anything to go by, she's tended to go for more defensive tactics, right? She's advised staying behind in the city and trying to wait it out in a siege with no allies coming to lift the siege, right? In the previous couple of books, she's been a staunch ally, and her advice was really good and helpful in those places and times. Now it might be time to listen to other advisors. The followers of Beatan are chaotic, right? And I believe they wear yellow robes. So I think they've got like swords, shields, yellow robes, not a lot of armor. Being chaotic, well, first off, it means that they have a more liberal worldview, and they believe that, you know, a good society works without a fixed, hard, firm government. You know, they're not big fans of law and order, but it also means they will be more open-minded and likely to improvise. So if I need someone dashing in and out of buildings, defending like a farmstead, barns, farmhouse, or the village over here, they would be good at close quarters fighting in unfamiliar terrain. Whereas this is unfamiliar to Honoric, because he's just arrived like a day or so ago. Don't know how much reconnaissance he's done beforehand, but not necessarily that much, as he was gathering an army and moving it here first. The Wood Elves and Rangers are going to be very potent. We should stick them in a forest somewhere over here or here. I don't think we can get them all the way up there, to pepper foes of arrows, to harass and give support. The White Wizard will see how he gets used. Same with the Paladins. The Peasants, I seem to remember needing to use the Peasants to block this ford, even though that feels like a really bad idea. If we had the Peasants over here in the village, maybe, or on one of the farms, that might make a bit more sense. So, 2/3 of our army is low-quality, untrained troops who literally recruited within the last month or two, right? They have poor equipment, very little training. They will suffer greatly. And unfortunately, we will need to expose them to that suffering. They don't have skill. They don't have good quality equipment. And they're going to take a beating if they get hit. They are... well, this is interesting, right? They haven't been trained to stand up to great danger, so you'd expect them to break and run. But they are defending their home, and they've been drummed up by not a religious fanatic, but a political agitator who's got them all excited to sign up and protect themselves. And there are so many of them that even if they started to run, it would take a while. So essentially, we can use the peasants as a big unit that will take a very long time for the enemy to kill and break, purely because there's so many bodies. It takes a long time to kill 10,000 people. Look, they might break and run earlier, right? But you've got all these peasants standing together saying, well, there's 10,000 of us. If one of us gets killed, it's probably not going to be me. If it gets up to 3,000 or 4,000, maybe I should start getting worried, right? Right? Yeah. So, while they're likely to break easier, the sheer number of them means they might be able to stick around a bit longer, especially if we can support them. I think they can be used to block a space as a big roadblock to slow the enemy down, like a tar pit unit. It's not like a bunch of shield maidens with their exquisite training. But yeah. Okay, I think we've surveyed this enough. And our allies are the warriors of Beatan and Dharma from Sorcerak and Aveneg. Bearing in mind, our enemy also has units from Aveneg. And if the two meet, it's going to be nasty, because either they really won't want to kill their fellow countrymen, or it's going to be like full-on animosity, like, you absolute bastards, you're from our home city and you dare be on the other side of this fight, we're going to murder you, you know. So it's going to be nasty one way or the other. Oh, right, before... we have the important feature of the two bridges on either side of the village. Now, there's two ways we can approach this. We can guard the southern bank and let the enemy cross over the first bridge and come through, and then we fight them as they try and cross this bridge. Maybe they push us back. Or we could go into the village, use it as cover, and fight them as they try and cross the first bridge in an all-out skirmish, probably with the followers of Beatan. Or what we could do is go all the way to the uppermost bridge, fight them there, and then if we start to lose heavily, you know, if we start taking losses, we could fall back into the village, fight defensively using the buildings, and then fall back to the second bridge. The downside of this is that if we go into the buildings to fight defensively and they come into the village, we're all interspersed, and trying to retreat to the southern bridge is very, very, very deadly. I keep saying north and south. It's not north and south. It's west and east. North is sort of up here. So, actually, wait a minute. Because we have this, don't we? Edit. Don't we have a... Right, go back to terrain. Tools, no. Game, lock turn. Terrain, special, compass. Plop that down there. Okay. And it is compass white. Would that stand out more? Oh yeah, yeah. So we'll remove that one. And then we're going to go, oh my god, I want to rotate this. Oh, you absolute... Okay, I'll do it this way. If we go like 15 by 15, maybe that'll stand out a bit more. There we go. We just drag that to there. Go back to deployment, and we will lock turns again. There we go. Okay, okay, I can make that a bit bigger. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? It'll be fine. We'll look at it occasionally, and I'll remember it's there and maybe go look at it. Yeah. So, the danger of going all the way to the westernmost bridge is that if we fall back and fight in the village, we survive longer. But if we start losing in the village, we can't get out of the village easily, and we'll take heavy losses retreating to the eastern bridge. Whereas if we go to the eastern bridge, they can use the village for defense and just kind of wait there. There's a bit of a gap, so I'm not sure they could entangle us there. Now, the ford is another matter, right? It's shallow, like ankle deep, knee deep at most, possibly even less than ankle deep, right? Units could go straight across it. And we have cavalry. We have what, 830, 1,300 cavalry, I think. Oh damn, I closed the let's see, 800, yeah, 1,300 cavalry. And more importantly, Honoric has 500, 1,000. So actually we have more cavalry, but half of his cavalry are cataphracts. Cataphracts are very heavily armoured knights, essentially. They actually predate knights. So cataphract would be like heavy scale or lamellar, almost plate, almost like robes, and then the horse would have like a full caparison of the same metal armor, right? They have lances, but you know, they'd hit really hard with a lot of impact. The reason I'm bringing this up is, of course, if our cavalry or his cavalry want to cross the river or the stream, they're probably going to want to use the bridges or the ford. Now, according to the map, this stream in some places is only a 3-foot ditch, right? Essentially, now I'm not sure if that means this stretch is 3 foot deep or 3 feet wide. But either way, it's entirely possible for units to cross that. It'll slow them down and mess them up and, you know, ruin their formations for a while, and they'll take time to recover. So it would be nice to set up a bit of a killing ground on this side of the water, but we don't want it to be too large because we don't want to give them room to reorganize once they get across. Also, being driven back into the water would not be good for anyone. Maybe the monks of the Scarlet Mantis could handle it. Maybe the rangers. Maybe the wood elves. But essentially, using the stream and the river as a natural barrier, like a castle wall, to fend off our attackers for as long as possible will help to mitigate his numerical advantage. It won't mitigate his advantage of skill or equipment so much, but we can work on that. And I'm reminded of the Battle of Malden, which is very disappointed because when I first came across it as a youngster, the Battle of Maldon sounded awesome, right? The Battle of Maldon is a great battle. No, it's just Malden. Malden. The Battle of Malden happened in England back in the Dark Ages, and essentially, to put it in very, very simple terms, there was a river down the middle of the battlefield, and the Vikings stood on one side and the Anglo-Saxons stood on the other side. And they yelled insults across each other, and the Vikings basically yelled, "We're going to come and kill you." And the Anglo-Saxons yelled, "Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough." And the Vikings tried to come and have a go because they thought they were hard enough, and they got killed trying to get out of the river on the other side. And they had to give up and go home. So if we can do something similar to this, I'm not sure the peasant militia can help massively, but it's a great big wall of bodies that can kind of stop people trying to climb out the stream or river. The bridges are nice choke points, so it'd be nice to utilise either bridge. If we can block the northern bridge, that would be great, right? The other thing is, though, we will be spread thin, as our enemy vastly outnumbers us. And we've got 220 guys with ranged weapons. They've got 2,000 guys with ranged weapons. So they can rain down death upon us. So we want to be careful about that. Very careful. So I'm kind of thinking, this is why I'm thinking we should form a defensive line, hold a small reserve back, and then attempt to plug gaps and like roll up ends or fall back as we're overwhelmed to consolidate, because we don't have the strength to overwhelm and outnumber our foes at the beginning of the battle. Fortunately, we were able to prevent reinforcements coming from the rift, so no orcs and goblins and dark elves and stuff to help Honoric's army, so that's great, right? Also, we shouldn't see this list yet because it's coming up in the next section, but I prepared it ahead of time just because I could, you know? Right. So I found this program, I've downloaded it, and taken a few days to learn how to use it, among other things I've had to do. It has been an unusually busy week. A large trestle table has been erected. You sit at its head, the sceptre in one hand. Around the table sit Forceleni Gwyneth, Dore Lejeune, the White Mage, Antocitus the One-Eyed, Sword Mistress Hevatala, commander of the women of Serakube, Obuda Vahegyan, commander of the men of Beatan from Serakube, the High Priest Baal, commander of the men of Beatan from Avaneg, Glyfdel, captain of the elves of Sundial, Glavus, and Hengist, the Grand Master of Quan. Gwyneth stands and says, "First let us hear the reports of our scouts," and she indicates Glavus. Glavus says, "This is what we can determine of Honoric's forces," and reads out a report. He then hands it to you. The army of Honoric consists of the Legion of the Sword of Doom, 5,000 swordsmen, 2,000 crossbowmen, known as the Reign of Doom, 500 cavalry, heavy cataphracts, known as the Bringers of Doom. The Legion of Avaneg have supplied 1,000 swordsmen, the Legion of the Spires 1,000 swordsmen. The Women of Horngroff number 1,000 swordswomen and 500 horse riders. The Men of Mortavalon have added 1,000 spearmen, who worship the god Moraine. There are 200 monks of the Scarlet Mantis and 4,000 levies from Doomover, for a total of 16,200 troops. We can field about 10,000 men, heavily outnumbered, and the Legion of the Sword of Doom are reckoned to be the best in all the man-march, says Adglavus. Which means, if we can only field about 10,000, we're missing about half the peasant militia, maybe, and some more, and we need to work out where the mercenaries of Antocitus go. So the forces don't quite tally with what I've added up previously. It does seem that maybe, because the foes of Beatan from Avaneg are 1,000, so some of Hivatala's numbers for 1,500 and 500 cavalry may also be followers of Beatan. I mentioned that because I think one of the maps mentions Avaneg cavalry on our side, so we'll have to see how it plays out. It may be slightly different. You invite suggestions from your commanders. Gwyneth suggests a defensive formation with a refused left flank. The right flank should rest on the Wickerwood, with Glyfdel's elves in the wood itself. 400 warriors of Beatan should occupy the old farm, with some cavalry positioned on Colwyn's Mound, and then a line of units stretching to the Green Ridge, with the centre resting on Hartwig Fell's farm. Antocitus and his mercenaries should be held in reserve on Tall Hill, where the Overlord Avenger's command post should be. Finally, I would suggest Glavis and his rangers should wait in ambush at the old bridge to hold it for as long as possible, should any try to cross it. So, let's just look at that a moment, right? So, the wood elves in the wood here. The wicker wood? Yep, sure. 400 of Wars Beatan to the old farm. Alright. And for Colwyn's Mound, some cavalry on Colwyn's Mound, presumably to swoop down here and ride across into the flank of any foes who come across. Antocitus and his mercenaries should be on Tall Hill over here. What is that? Yes. Glavis and his rangers, the old bridge, which is the southern one. So Glavis and his rangers down here, in the open, with only the bridge for cover, and then a defensive line across here, right? That's a massive refused flank. We're giving up a whole huge portion of the battlefield. Glavis and his rangers can't hold off enemies indefinitely across that bridge. And we'd have no one guarding the ford, so we'd be completely open. Hang on. Line stretching... Oh, wait. A line stretching from this mound to the Green Ridge, with the centre of the line here. Yeah, that's leaving the ford wide open. And allowing the armies, and anyone he sends through here can probably just crush the rangers and come rushing through. Now, they're highly skilled, so they may be able to put up a bloody good fight and hold them off for a while. But it might be better to just bung some bloody great big units there, because it's a narrow bridge. Now, this is an attractive suggestion, because our enemy's going to have this whole area under his control anyway, and he can probably come sweeping down here if he wants to, especially if we're only putting a token defensive force here. Thing is, if they come across the ford and just go straight for the rangers over here to let some more stuff through, we'll have to rush and intercept. It's not... If it was a refused flank where we were going out to here, following the line of the rivers, that would be something, right? The line of the water, or a bit closer. But because we've only got 21 men here, who are like, you know, like proper full-on commandos, like SAS or something, or, you know, for you Americans out there, you'd call them Navy SEALs or something, right? They're good guys. They're really good at fighting. But they're really good at fighting in forests and woods and stuff, and they'd be out on their own with nobody nearer than sort of here for support. That's a long way to have to go to help them. They obviously wouldn't stay there long. They'd need to fall back to us. And then we'd be facing like a load of enemies here, right? And they'd come in from the side. If any cross over the stream, or if, say, the monks of the Scarlet Mantis come across here, we could be in deep trouble. And also, his crossbowmen could just sit and shoot across the stream at us, right? With our defensive line that goes from Colwyn's Hill through the farm to the Green Ridge. "No, I disagree," says Obuda Verhegian, his voice heavily accented. "We should use the terrain to our best advantage in setting up a defensible position. Sword Mistress Hivatala should march now to hold Rurik's bridge with her cavalry close behind to plug any gaps should the enemy show signs of breaking through, and to provide an attacking capability. My troops would hold the ford, while Glyfdel's bowmen occupy Wood Nugget Wood. Gwyneth's troops and those of Antocitus can hold the ditch from Wood Nugget Wood to the Wicker Wood with her cavalry close behind near Colwyn's Mound. 1,000 men could be held in reserve, along with Glavis's rangers, who can be used to plug any gaps. Finally, I would suggest that the Overlord Avenger sets up his command post on the Green Ridge. That is my counsel. Thank you. Okay, so he's suggesting sending Hivatala with her infantry and cavalry to the the western bridge to block it here, and then they could probably fall back into the village if they needed to stop any big flanking move coming round here and crushing us. And they're high quality troops, and that's a good choke point, right? Then he says Gliftel's Bowman in Wood Nugget Wood, which is this one. Not necessarily on this side of the stream either. Quite possibly. They could use both sides, probably. They're nimble and agile. They're basically like Lone Wolf, right? That's a good harassment point because, looking on this map, it may be close enough to shoot people attacking the ford. We don't know quite what the ranges are. Gwyneth's troops and those of Antocitus should hold the ditch from Wood Nugget Wood to the Wicker Wood. So here, defensible to push people in. It's like a Mott and Bailey hill fort, right? You know, they come into the ditch, they try and come out of the ditch, you just keep pushing them down, throw rocks at them, throw spears, you know. It's a good defensive position, right? And it appeals to me as a dwarf player. 1,000 men could be... Hang on. Cavalry close behind near Colwyn's Mound. So, cavalry here and here, right? If we do have cavalry of Avaneg, they'd be here. So we'd have cavalry in three places to redeploy as needed. Whereas Gwyneth's advice was for... What did she say of the cavalry? Some cavalry positioned on Colwyn's Mound. So that matches, right? Then a line of units stretching to... I mean, I could actually just plonk stuff down now. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that, right? Let's have some fun. Okay? So, ignoring numbers and unit sizes, right? So, Gwyneth's advice is... Wickerwood. So, we'll put the elves in the forest, right? Where are we? Hello? Have I... Oh! Game... Lock turn. Can I now? Wood elves. Yeah. Okay. So let's put those in the forest. There we go. 400 dwarves of Beartan should occupy the old farm. So we will rotate that unit and make that 40. 5. 10. No, 5. Okay. Here we go. Right. So follows Beartan here, meaning we have 600 of them in reserve somewhere. Some cavalry positioned on Colwyn's Mound. We don't know what cavalry, so we'll just plonk some down here now. Obviously not that many, so we will put down 50. 10? Sure. Yeah. We'll put those there. There we go. line of units stretching to the green ridge with centre resting Hartwick Fells Farm. And Tostinus' mercenaries on the tall hill. We don't know how many there are. There could be a lot, right, in reserve, with Avenger here. Then Glavis and his rangers lying in ambush at the old bridge. Yeah, guess what? That's our little ambush, right? That's all we get over there. And then, like, presumably, cavalry. Oh, God. Okay, peasant militia. Yeah, look, I'm going to presume we don't get that many. Go 100 wide? Yeah. Okay, let's go 50 wide, see if that works. There we go. So let's just put the peasant militia here, right? And angle them like... It's very mouse sensitive. Okay, and then if I want to move them, there. So then all the rest of our units would be in a line between here and here. Which means we aren't defending this open space at all. We don't need to dominate the village or this area. If we can hold them at the bridge, that's fine. So we have, like, basically a line from here to there, and that's it. I can't say it's a favourite. Let's compare that to Obuda's advice, right? So, Hivatala, Ruik's Bridge with our cavalry close behind. Okay, so let's... That is just generic shield maidens, so we'll take that off. Hivatala's shield maidens. Come on. No. There. Okay. Let's just rotate these. Bloody hell. It is extremely fiddly. Alright. Because I can't... As soon as I go to move a unit, it starts trying to rotate it. So, Hivatala's shield maidens and cavalry. I don't like what it does with the selection. One moment. We'll put these here. Right, we will rotate there, like that, right? Then the men of Avaneg would go at the ford. Let's just tidy up these, right? So that is 100. And we'll go 20 wide. Because obviously it's 1,000 and we're going 200 wide, but that's a good approximation. Because I've had to scale down all the unit sizes, you know, to a tenth of what they should be, because otherwise they would just be massive on this map. And honestly, that river is like 5-6 inches wide, so if I scroll in enough, they're actually individually based. So we imagine each of these bases is 10 soldiers, right? Which is where we get our 20 rangers, right? Okay. So, he then suggests Gliftel's bowmen in Wood Nugget Woods. So we just pick these up, drag them over here, and let's put them on this side, arguably, right? Let me just get that. It might make more sense for them to be over here and then just move about nimbly in the forest. But that looks like a good supporting position, right? Gwyneth's troops and those of Antostus can hold the ditch from Wood Nugget Wood to the Wicker Wood. So we don't know exactly... Okay, so that's clearly wrong. I don't know why it's done that, but... yeah, 1,000. Okay, thought so. Right. 120 wide. Right. So let's plop these here. And go... Womp. Right. And then... Maybe they'll rotate less when moving the actual turns, but we'll see. Because I'll try and do it turn by turn a bit as the battlefield changes. And Antostus as mercenaries. Again, we don't know how many there are, but I imagine there's going to be at least 1,000 of them. So if we just temporarily say there's 100 and they're 20 wide, and we'll... there we go, right? So that... Oh, come on, you bastard. Thing. Okay, that's close enough, right? So her cavalry on Colwyn's Mound. So we will put those right here and turn them like that. Wait. That's not cavalry. Bloody done it again. Right, okay. Because it extends the unit properties window up, it changes what is selected. So there's our cavalry, right? Obviously in a slightly different formation on Colwyn's Mound to fit on. Then 1,000 men could be held in reserve, along with Glavis's rangers, who can be used to plug any gaps. So, command center would be down here, which would be more central. And we'll move the rangers back to here. Right? To indicate this is like our command center and this is where we're operating from. Now, we can have a command center here or here. Think about this. We literally issue commands by sending messengers on horseback around the battlefield and waving flags and blowing trumpets and stuff, right? So essentially, if our command center's over here, all of our soldiers need to be able to see it, right? And Gwyneth's plan had the rangers over here and everyone else clustered round this hill defensively, leaving the forward wide open. This feels like a much better solid plan so far. I like it. Obviously we'll get an actual deployment map, and obviously Honoric will modify his deployment as he sees us moving units into position, but he won't wait until we put everything in place and then put everything of his in place, because we'll be deploying simultaneously. So essentially, I imagine there will be some severe homogeneity in that he won't be able to fully react to what we're doing, just as we won't be able to fully react to what he's doing. I don't think he will have the same setup exactly what we do, but I think they will be very similar. Right. Okay. All the way down to very near the end of the book at section 410. Then Hivatala stands and speaks, her accent outlandish and strange, so even more strange than Obuda Varhegian's. I mean, Hivatala sounds Indian, possibly. She suggests refusing the right flank, with Gwyneth's swordswomen holding Rurik's bridge. Okay. So we're moving these to... Okay. So we're pulling these down. Gwyneth's swordswomen here. Her own troops would hold the ford, with all of the cavalry of Dharma on their right up to Hartwig Fell's farm. So, we'll move these out of the way, we will move Hivitala's shield maidens to here. Why are there so many more of them? 150. Okay, so that's why. All of the cavalry of Dharma, so these ones. So we'll move those sideways a bit because we're getting cavalry in here. And this cavalry here too. But, like, I'll put that there because it's acting as one block. Oh, okay, there we go. Right. Antocitus's mercenaries would hold the farm with the rest of the troops in a line to Tall Hill, which would be occupied by 1,000 men. So Antocitus and his mercenaries would be here. And then the other units would be like over here, right? "400 men of Beatan could be held in reserves, with the elves occupying Crossway Copse." Crossway Copse is down here. Okay, so the elves would be over here to come and support if needed, shoot over heads of people at things crossing the stream. Men of Beatan, 400 in reserve. We'll put them back here. Your command post would be on the Green Ridge. Wait. Okay, yeah, so our command post would be here. So, the advantage of this setup is that it is tricky for the enemy to cross the stream. Refusing this flank basically lets the enemy march in and steamroll over Glavis and his rangers. This one, they cross the stream and become disordered and a bit disorganized, but there's a lot of space for them to recover in, and we're actually occupying even less space than Gwyneth's defensive plan like this. Antocitus and the White Mage favour this council. Glavis and Glyfdel come out in favour of Gwyneth's advice. Really? Glavis likes the plan that leaves him and his men out to dry? Baal and Dor Lejeune favour the council of Obodor Verhegion. What orders will you issue? I think that no one of these battle plans is an outright auto-kill, and that it may be possible to win the battle with every possible option, but that some will be significantly harder than others. I think the hardest one would be Gwyneth's plan, because it's the reason it's a good defensive plan is that if they couldn't cross the stream, right, then they'd only be able to fight in this space here, and we would be limiting the amount of space, you know, funneling the enemy into a narrow killing ground, which would help remove their numerical advantage. Unfortunately, it's a 3-foot ditch, right? If it's 3 feet deep, they can pretty much hop across it. If it's 3 foot wide, it's more of a running jump. Maybe they bring like ladders and stuff to try and cross it. You know, like put the ladder down and run across it as a bridge. But essentially, it can be crossed. And so this one, it gives them a big killing ground, because if they can get their crossbowmen over here and just, oh, we can just shoot across the stream as well, yeah. So I feel I'm going to take the advice of Obodar Verhegion, as it seems like the best of the three options. And here we have an actual deployment map, and I'll take the time to set it up. Obodar Verhegion nods with grim satisfaction. "So shall the blade of Honoric be blunted on the shield of our defence," says Baal portentously. Dore Lejeune and the White Mage decide to stay with you on the Green Ridge to await events before committing themselves. So do Hengist and his 2 comrades. As your men move into position, so Honoric reacts. His dispositions are shown on the map opposite. Note this paragraph number. You will probably need to refer to the map when the battle begins. I probably shall, but I'm also going to just blatantly pause the recording while I go set up all the units. See you in a bit. And we're back. I have now replicated the deployment map. For some reason, Honoric has managed to pick up another 500 men of the Legion of the Spires, even though his force, our scout said he had 1,000, he's got 1,500. But also, somehow, we've gained some reserve troops. We don't know exactly who or what they are. But apart from that, this all basically matches out. We got Glavis and the Rangers here, the Wood Elves in the forest. Our reserves back here, the White Wizard and Doré Lejeune and the Paladins. Gwyneth's Cavalry, Hivitala's Cavalry, Hivitala's Shield Maidens, Gwyneth's Shield Maidens, and Tostus's Mercenaries are here. Now, he's gone heavy on this side, which is interesting. We have the Swordsmen of the Legion of Doom, the Crossbowmen, and the Cavalry all bunched together, trying to cross the stream. He's clearly planning to crush Gwyneth and Antocidas with a lot of crossbow bolts, and hoping to use weight of numbers to pour across and destroy. So we need to hold the bank and hope we don't get pushed back too much. Not sure where these spearmen came from, but that's okay. Gwyneth's cavalry are in reserve here, so they can hopefully charge in and attack anyone who starts making it onto our side of the stream. The Wood Elves can obviously shoot over here into the Legion of the Sword of Doom, possibly into the Horngroff Horsewomen, who aren't going to necessarily be able to do very much, because we got the Men of Mortavalon, the Legion of the Spires, and of Avaneg all stacked up here, trying to push back across the ford. I think the Folds of Beartown are going to have to fall back to the farm, and we may have to send in cavalry and something else to support them. We'll probably have to send in these infantry reserves. Possibly Doré Lejeune and the Paladins. Over here, we got Hivitala's Shield Maidens, including the cavalry, up against the entire Doom Over levies and the Women of Horngroff, and this is great. Not the Women of Horngroff on horse, but the Women of Horngroff on foot. It's great because we know the Women of Horngroff despise and hate the levies from Doomover. So that may work in our favour. Also, it's now gone 4 in the morning, which means it did take me quite a while to do this. Maybe, I don't know, long enough, you know. So, some of these numbers don't match up. 12,000 crossbowmen. He only had, like, 4,000, right? 2,000, so I don't know where he suddenly got 12,000 from. It's possible our scouts were wrong, but it's also possible that one just shouldn't be there and it should just be 2,000. 100 Irsmuncast, that's cavalry, but we know that we have, what, 800 cavalry in this group. I'm not sure where the other cavalry are supposed to be, presumably in reserve over here, maybe. If I want to create duplicate units like I did for this second unit of men from the Spires, it takes more work. We'll see if this unit plays any meaningful part in the battle or if it might just be an error. I checked the other deployment maps, and in at least one of them there's a second Legion of the Spires unit as well, so maybe he does just have more of them, right? So Honoric's over here. Our goal is to, take him out. But realistically, our goal is to survive the massive onslaught he has pouring at us. This looks like it's going to be a problem. We got some support here. We may need to throw more at it. This looks like we're winning, right? The levies are about as bad as our peasant militia. The peasant militia here do not represent the peasant militia. They're being used as a placeholder for our reserve troops, because we don't know exactly what's in reserve. It looks like 3/4 of this cavalry might be in reserve here. for example. Okay. If you went on a scouting mission, if you went on a mission to scout Honoric's camp, came across 3 large boxes and managed to discover their contents, I did indeed. I did indeed, even though it was risky. Before the council breaks up, you tell them of the wyverns that Honoric will be using in battle. Everyone looks crestfallen until the white mage says, "I shall deal with these creatures myself, and with he who controls them, or die trying, Overlord. As soon as battle commences, I shall seek them out and keep them at bay using all the arcane arts I know, no doubt." Gravely you thank him, marvelling at the strength and determination of your friends and allies. And indeed we should marvel at them. Your army is in position, so is that of Honoric's. Everything is quiet, the lull before the storm. Suddenly a trumpet blasts from the serried ranks. Your foe and a lone rider gallop out and shout, "Honoric, Lord of the Legion of the Sword of Doom, challenges Avenger, so-called Overlord of Irsmuncast, to an honourable duel on open ground between the opposing armies. Come forth and fight, or forever be dishonoured." Doré Lejeune says, "You must go, Overlord." But Glavis says, "Don't be ridiculous, Avenger. A senseless risk. Now we can accept Honoric's challenge, or refuse it." I don't necessarily think this is a duel to the death, right? I have heard a rumour that in ancient Japan there was a kind of contest where instead of armies fighting a battle, one samurai from each army would be chosen as a champion, and they would approach each other and strike the most fearsome pose they could and hold it for as long as possible, and the first one to move lost the battle, and his army had lost, he was done for. I don't know about that for certain, but I'm feeling this duel is of a similar nature. He's trying to humiliate me, right? If I go out there and he beats me up, he makes me look weak and my army loses faith in me. If I refuse to fight him, he makes me look weak and my army loses faith in me, right? And they might not fight as well to help me. If I go beat him up, he looks bad, but he's got a magic sword and I'm just a ninja, right? Oh God, if someone were to clip that. I know. He's never actually fought me. It's possible we could have met and fought in book 3, but I didn't go that route. So he's never encountered me, but he knows enough to have a good idea what a ninja is capable of, right? He's physically strong and has great confidence in his strength, possibly even arrogance. He has heavy armour and a magic sword. This is feeling like Prince Caspian, where Peter and what's his name now? The king of the... I could stand up and pick it up and... Because it's... Because Peter gives a challenge to the evil king, and he calls in 2 of his lords, Sir Thespian and Sir Glozell, and tells, reads them out the challenge and says, "This is a joke, I'm not going to take this seriously, he's just a boy." And the 2 lords manipulate him into accepting the challenge. They say, "Of course, why should you be scared of fighting a boy? You're sure your army will understand." They manipulate him into accepting the challenge, and then I don't care what they showed in the films or the TV series for that matter. The TV series came a lot closer. During the duel with Peter, in the 2nd or 3rd bout, he trips and falls, at which point It's not the Tarkans, is it? Because the Tarkans are from elsewhere. It's the other ones with a similar name. But his men come running out. Lord Glazel and Lord Sophespian come rushing out, crying, "Treachery! The foul Narnian stabbed him while he was down!" And then, while all their soldiers are running out to start the battle, one of them kneels beside their king and stabs him in the back or in the neck and says, "That's for your insolence this morning." That is villains for you, right? So while his army he may lose favour with his army, essentially he is confident that he can beat me in a fight, or confident enough that it's worth the gamble. And that if he does lose a bit of standing with his army, he can still probably crush me with what he's got there. I mean, look at the size of some of these units. They are massive. That being said, it is 4:15 in the morning. I should probably get some sleep. I got things to be doing tomorrow. Yeah. It may be a shorter episode than usual, but everything's set up for next time. So we'll be good to go, and I'll probably accept a challenge to go and fight Honoric, which will be pretty dangerous because he's a very tough opponent. I mean, he's a general of an entire army with a magic sword, and the only way we could kill him in the first book was with poison when he was asleep. Right? So, yeah. We want to be careful. I may need to block a lot in that fight. Well, that about wraps it up for this one. I hope you've enjoyed it so far, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one. I'll say goodbye for now, though, and cheerio, everyone. See you all soon.